Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, I'm making another one sheet project. This faceted aperture box measures 5 inches high and it's 2 inches across at the bottom and the top. The apertures are obviously optional. I've put mine into 2 sides. You could add them into all 4 or leave them out entirely. And as I mentioned in the video, I think if you make this type of box with a nice one-sided pattern paper, because of the shape of the box, you can let the pattern paper do the work and you don't need to then add any mats and layers. The box is relatively quick and simple to put together, so let's get started. For the starting cardstock, it's 9.5 inches, and you can either use the full width of A4, 8 1/4, or US letter 8 1/2. All this means is you will either have a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch glue tab. Along the 9.5 inch side, score at 2, 4 1/2, 7 and 9. Rotate, and on your 8 inch side, at 2 inches, score down to the second score line, which will be at 2.5 inches. Repeat at 4 inches and 6 inches, and then score from top to bottom at 8 inches. Flip the piece over and repeat 2 inches down to the first score line at 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. Keep the piece in the scoreboard and line your ruler up with the 5 inch score line. Put a pencil mark on the score line at 3/4 inch, 1 1/4 inches, 2 3/4 inches, 3 1/4 inches, 4 3/4 inches, 5 1/4 inches, 6 3/4 inches, and 7 1/4. We're now going to put our additional score lines in, so you'll need a stylus and a ruler, and we're going to be concentrating on the ends of the score lines within the top 2.5 and the top and the bottom 2 inch section. So we'll be working from the tops of these score lines and the bottom of these score lines, and within each section we're going to score diagonally. So here we'll score from the end of the horizontal score line down to this pencil line, from this pencil line down to the end of the score line here. Then we'll score from the end of this first score line here down to this centre pencil mark, and then down from the centre pencil mark down to the top of this score line here. And we're going to do that all the way along to create a diamond section where the points of the diamonds are going to be at the ends of these score lines. I'll put one in pencil just to give you an idea, just to hopefully make that a bit clearer. So this is our horizontal score line. So it will be from the end of there down to the pencil mark on the centre score line, and then the same in the bottom half, like so. And then we'll work from the end of this score line here down to the centre pencil mark, and then down to the top of this score line. And then we will do the same from here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, all the way along. Now I'm going to have apertures in my box, and how many apertures you put in or whether you put apertures in is entirely your choice. Now, because this is a 250 GSM cardstock and it's coated, so it's quite weighty, I know that I'm going to be able to cut my apertures and then fold and burnish along the score lines. My frames are going to be strong enough. If you're using a lighter weight cardstock and you're going to have a thin frame for your aperture, you might want to fold and burnish and then cut your apertures after. Just bear that in mind depending on what weight cardstock you're going to be using. Now I'm going to have 2 apertures in what's going to be the front face of my box, which is going to be here and here. And I'm going to have about a 1/4 inch frame. Now this ruler that I'm going to use is in centimetres, but I'm going to use this guideline marker and line up that with my score line to mark where my frame needs to be cut. So that's the markings. So I'm now going to use my craft knife and cut round this inner pencil line. So that's my apertures cut. So I'm now going to cut the rest of the piece, and I'll add the acetate in the end. I am going to just get rid of any of the pencil marks now. First thing we're going to do is fold and burnish along the 3 horizontals. It is easier to fold and burnish these, cut the tabs for the lid and for the base, and then once those are cut, then fold and burnish along the diagonals. So we'll start with the 2-inch section at the bottom, and we're going to cut up each of the verticals to the horizontal, and then rotate and cut away that bottom rectangle. Now this square here is going to be the last square that I stick down. So I want to make sure that I have removed the score line, which I can see that I haven't. I'm just going to flip that over and cut that away. Then I'm going to take a slight wedge from squares 1 and 3. Rotate 180 degrees. And we're now going to work on the lid. Again, we're going to cut down each of the score lines through the first horizontal down to the second horizontal, like so. Let's split these sections. We can remove this thin rectangle at the end. Now this section here is effectively the back, so we can completely remove this. But we want to cut nice and neatly because this edge will be seen, like so. And then on this square here, so number 2 from the left and number 4 from the left, I'm going to cut these down to about half. I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to do it by eye. So, and then I'm just going to take the edges off of those. So these are the flaps which are just going to sit down inside the top of the box before the lid comes down, as it were. So that's those. I'm going to round off the corners of this tab just because that's my preference. Again, this is personal choice. And I'm going to add a finger notch into this end section here. So that's our box prepped. So now we want to fold our diagonal score lines. So my piece is upside down. That's my front. So therefore my folds are going to be valley folds. So they're going to all come in. So if you're working from the front, you'll fold as mountain folds. So if you've cut your frame, if you've cut your aperture, just be aware of your cardstock and the depth of your frame, and just make sure that you don't damage your frame. Now I'm only going to burnish with my fingers. I'm not actually going to go in with my score tool and burnish because I want the box to have the shape, but I'm not looking for sharp edges, as it were. So you can see how the shape of the box comes together. I'm now going to add my acetate into the sections. I'm using Snowfall acetate, and the only thing you want to make sure is that your acetate sits within the diamond. You don't want the acetate going over the score lines. So that's my acetate now in place, and we can now start to put the rest of our box together. Now, depending on the weight of your cardstock, you may find it easier to split this glue tab in half. If you're using a thinner cardstock, it will probably be okay, but because this is a 250 and obviously it's a mirrored coated, just to make life a little bit easier, I'm just going to snip along the score line just to split that glue tab, which will make it easier to stick the piece together. I'm going to use red liner tape again, and then we're going to join up the sides of the box. So that's the front of my box. So I'm going to fold in and stick down the two sides. So that's my base. Just going to burnish from the top. So here we have today's project. You can see all that would need, possibly, depending on the paper you've used, is maybe an additional sentiment or embellishment. I'm not sure, given this cardstock, that it actually needs anything else, and I'm really happy with how this box has turned out. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.